right, so we'll just get started and people can come in as they wish. To start, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Ashley Buchanan. I am here in Nashville, Tennessee. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am a second-year Master of Divinity student at Vanderbilt Divinity School. I finished my Bachelor's of Arts from Texas Christian University in May of 2019. Go Frogs, yes, Christy. And went straight into Divinity School. I'm going to hopefully pursue my PhD in justice work after I'm done. So a lot more school left for me. And because of that, I have always been in need and of interest in rest and creating space for Sabbath in our daily life. And because of that, I've led a few retreats through the region for youth. I led a specific Sabbath retreat last year for Woodmont Christian Christian Church's youth group last winter. And I really started looking into how can we curate a curriculum for Sabbath for people and youth to use any day of the week when they can escape to church camp or on vacation. Especially now, it's even more important in the time of COVID, as we are all overwhelmed constantly and also staying at home and staying safe. So because of that, the first thing that I want to do is do a moment of centering and kind of ground us in this moment. This is one of the most important aspects of Sabbath work, is inviting yourself to being completely present, completely here with yourself and with God and the world around you, while also not focusing on everything that is going on in the world around you. So what I'm going to ask you to do, if you're comfortable with your camera on, you can leave it on. Everyone's going to have their eyes closed or lowered, but you can also turn it off if that is something that's more comfortable for you. Again, this is all about finding comfort for yourself and your boundaries. So you're invited to just take a really big, deep breath in. And as you're breathing it in, let your body feel and take notice of your lungs expanding, and then breathe it all the way out. Feeling your muscles soften and maybe feel a little restraint as you breathe out. And continue breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. And your breath is so important in this moment. As you continue breathing, close your eyes or lower them, focusing on one central location. Make sure you feel comfortable doing so. And continue taking deep breaths all the way in, feeling it down in your stomach. You can even place your hand on your stomach if you can't really feel it traveling all the way down there. Take note of really feeling your breath. And take notice of where you are in this physical world. Where are you seated right now? Are you in a chair or on a couch or on the floor? Are you in the car? Are you moving? And how are you feeling physically? Continue this deep breathing as you take notice of maybe where some aches or pains are in your body, or if you feel unusually good and spry today. Continue taking 3 deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as you do this, release the tension in your body that you may not be mindful of at the moment. Relax your neck. You can roll it around if you need. Drop your shoulders. sit tall and strong. Let your posture show your confidence. Let your feet relax and feel the ground beneath you, because it is so sturdy, that foundation we sit on right now. Unclench your jaw. We all seem to hold tension in our mouth and our face more than any other parts of our body. So after you unclench your jaw, drop your tongue from the roof of your mouth where it most likely is sitting right now. And take notice of what letting go of all of that tension does for you. Does it make you a little uncomfortable because you've been holding on to that for days or weeks or even years? When we allow our body to fully relax, breathing is easier, and so is creating rest. So I ask that you continue to breathe deeply as I read our centering moment for today. Taking deep breaths all the way down through your body and feeling where that breath is going. What is Sabbath for us? How can we let go of all the work that needs to be done? We are used as vessels for labor. Physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental, constantly. And rest is recycled again and again to the bottom of the list of priorities. Sometimes we feel as though our world is a constant stream of everything that we must do, and not full of a life filled with the things that we love to do. To find rest is something that is reserved for specific times and places, only on days off from work, only in the locations we deem as vacation, or with the mindset that we can finally pause from laboring. But still we labor. Still, we continue focusing on the forward of everything that needs to be done, and let the present moments flee away to another box under lock and key as we await the day that we are given permission to access it. Well, today is that day that we no longer ask for permission. Today is the time that we learn that our labor has to have limits, and our bodies and minds are not only capital for others to benefit from. We are taking the space necessary for care, taking the moments needed for rest from all the intensive labor of our very being. And take one more big breath in through your nose and hold it for a few seconds before you release it. No longer will we just wish for the ability to rest, but we will create it within ourselves and our environments. For finding rest is holy work, and we must remember that the divine creator rested too. And so I invite you to take one or two more breaths in and out as you open your eyes and bring your gaze up as you enter this space once again. I find that starting most of my days, or before I'm in class or anything work related with centering moments or meditation, brings me a lot more joy than when I rush to do one thing right after another. Taking a pause, taking 5 minutes to just breathe and realize that you are here and alive, that you are able to breathe is so very good. And that is holy work. That can be Sabbath if that's all the time you have. But I do have a couple of questions for y'all, and you can utilize the chat because that's just the most convenient if you're able. My first question is, where do you find rest? Is it a vacation spot? Is it a little nook in your house? Is it when you see a certain family member? Where do y'all find rest or Sabbath? My backyard. Yes, Jerry. For me, for an example, my mom's family lives in Northern California, nestled between the beach and the redwood forest. And Humboldt County is my Eden, is the holy land for me, and a place that can never be exceeded or anything. In nature, a lot of people connect through nature. Radnor Lake. Where else? And are you able to find rest right now? Is there a place in your house that you feel safe enough to take a moment for yourself, or are you too overwhelmed for that? Because also taking account of what you're emotionally and spiritually feeling. Visiting my mom in Bethany Hills. Yes, if you are from this region, grew up at church camp, Bethany Hills is Sabbath for so many people. Our regional youth are leading a virtual retreat, and they're finding peace amidst the chaos because they cannot physically be at camp. My living room in the evening. Yes, I love being able to create spaces of Sabbath. On my deck or in the front of the fireplace. I wish I had a fireplace. I am jealous, Elder Hunt. And so my next question for y'all is, and you can continue saying places you find rest or Sabbath. Walking my dog. Again, I also wish I had a dog. See, you guys are giving me things I wish I wanted or wish I had. But why? Why are these the places or these the activities that give you rest? What is it about that moment or that location that feeds something in you that your daily life doesn't? And you can type that in the chat as well. Quiet and fresh air. Being able to clear out the noise is a really important moment. Happiness and peace. Yes. Yes, being able to see fruit or flowers grow and take account for the nature. Away from screens. Yes, Mara, I agree. I wish we could be doing this in person, but I actually tried and succeeded kind of to curate a completely online Sabbath retreat for one of my jobs this past spring when COVID became our reality. And it was way harder than I thought, because I was like, look at all these tools in which we have access to, right? All of these apps or videos that can bring rest in a new way, but it still is never the same as just being able to be in a space. But we're not always able to be in the spaces we need, right? We can't always travel to beaches or to mountains or even our beloved church camp. It's not always our reality, and so we have to be able to create that right now. And so my next question for y'all is, what is Sabbath to you? The word comes from a Hebrew word saying to rest from labor. So that's the technical meaning, but what does Sabbath mean to you? What does it feel like in your soul? Peace. Yes. to de-stress and to forget everything for a while, to set time aside to sit with God. That is a goodness that Sabbath can bring, to be contemplative, to reflect on God, to be quiet. Music is such a holy part of Sabbath. I cannot recommend finding a song that is so peace bringing to you and playing it whenever you need. That's what I've done this last week. A joy in the soul. Oh, I love that definition. Focusing on God, no worries, no other duties for that time except to give praise and thanksgiving. So all of these have a couple things in common. It's moments of bliss and happiness, of peace, of connecting to God. And that is what Sabbath does. It connects us not only to the God outside, but also the God in each one of us. So what the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to invite you all to sit in silence for 3 minutes, and then I'm going to play 2 songs, both by Andrew Moran, and because her music is probably one of the most peace-bringing to me, and so I wanted to share that with you. And so I'll play these songs, and I'm going to share a slideshow of pictures from places in the last 2 years that I've been across this country. And because I was looking at them this week as I was preparing for this, and those are places that I've found deep rest. And so I just wanted to share some of them with you. So for the next 3 minutes, just sit in silence. And if you have paper, you can journal. You can take account of how you're feeling right now, how it feels to be in silence. Or if you need to talk to God, you can write a letter. You can write a letter to a loved one, but we're going to be silent, and it might seem a little awkward, but we're going to do it. So enjoy your silence. All right, so you're invited to finish up what you were writing or thinking or reflecting or praying on. And as you do that, also take account into how silence was for you. I'm sure some of you, it was a beautiful, holy moment because you don't get it enough. For some of you, it may have been a little uncomfortable to just be seated with only yourself. When I started to do silence meditation work, I was really uncomfortable because I had been used to constantly being involved in other things or with noise. Or when I would meditate, I would put on music or something to fill that just silent world because I couldn't deal with it. But as I learned how silence is a moment that we can listen intently for the voice of God, because God's always here, but maybe silence is our way of hearing God. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share and play some music, and just look at these photos or still journal or whatever you need to do. But if you're looking at these photos, you can jot down what feelings they bring you or what they remind you of or how you can find God in them. So I'm going to share this. Okay. And can y'all hear the music? It just started.
nights with 1,000 questions, wrestling with all the lessons I was supposed to learn. Bright lights on my transgressions, I wish that I had left them never to return. Something in the way you break through to me brings me to my knees. Oh, I fight and deny it, but still your love wins every time. Never changing, never failing. Oh, your love wins every time. I'll never know the reason you keep on believing in my broken dreams. I keep on hiding from you, even though I know you see through to the heart of me. Something in the way you whisper my name calls me back again. Oh, I fight it and deny it, but still your love wins every time. Never changing, never failing. Oh, your love wins every time. Every time I crumble, every time I stumble, you show me the way to go. Every time I'm knocked down, and when I lose out, oh, your love wins. Oh, I fight it and deny it, but still your love wins every time. Never changing and never failing. Oh, your love wins every time. Always constant and ever present. Oh, your love wins every
So I shared those to give an example of a way to create a space filled with safe moments or happy memories that remind you of places that bring you joy. All of those spaces have been super important in my life. A beach trip with my family, going to Big Bend National Park with my best friend in the entire world, being in Humboldt County, California, in the redwood trees and on the West Coast on their very cold beaches, being at camp. All of these things bring me the rest I want in my everyday life. And so to create what those images showed me, a way to do that is by reliving them, by staring at photos or watching videos. And they don't have to be silent, right? They can be videos of your children or grandchildren or nieces or nephews running around. They can be a video of someone you love singing an incredible song that they just made up off the top of their head. It can be an incredible sermon that was life-giving to you. All of these things are just small examples of how creating Sabbath is so easy, but we pretend like we don't have time for it, right? Because our lives get so busy. But creating Sabbath isn't about giving ourselves an entire weekend or an entire day or even an entire hour. And especially if you're working with youth or children, or you have youth or children, you don't have that time, right? And neither do they, because they're busy too. I've worked with youth in a lot of contexts, but the commonality is how busy they are and how busy I think they should be. But they do a lot. They're tasked with a ton of responsibilities from a ton of different things, just like we are. And so to instill these moments of rest, whether they're an hour or 20 minutes or even 5 minutes, is so important, because they can learn to implement that into their lives as they grow up. If you start it when they're 4 and you make sure they do it until they're 18, they're going to keep doing it because it's something that they know they need. Because a lot of us, I think, just put rest off until we get a vacation day or a holiday. And then when we get there, we're not prepared to accept that rest, right? We haven't really created the space for it. So whether it's doing a centering moment at the beginning of your day and finding rest for 3 to 5 minutes, or if it's crafting an hour out of one evening a week to just be in silence and looking at memories that fill you, or if it's turning to scripture and reading these words that were written thousands of years ago and finding value and meaning in a new way. So our last activity before we close for questions is I'm going to be leading y'all in a Lectio Divina, which a little bit of background, it's a part of devotional practice that is incredibly popular and has been among Catholics and Gnostics, and has now infiltrated the Protestant sector, and I'm so grateful for that. But what Pope Benedict said in 2005 about it is that I would like in particular to recall and recommend the ancient tradition of Lectio Divina. The diligent reading of sacred scripture, accompanied by prayer, brings out that intimate dialogue in which the person reading hears God who is speaking, and in praying, responds to God with trusting openness of heart. So, center yourself again. Get comfortable where you are and grab your paper, your pens, your pencil, your markers, whatever you have. And we're going to be reading Psalm 131. I have 2 different versions of it, and I'm going to be reading this scripture a total of 5 times. But in between each time will be a pause, and I can ask you a few questions about what to be thinking about within this next reading. So the first thing is making sure you're comfortable and just listening. Make sure you're breathing deeply as we were earlier today. And listen and write down or draw, or however you connect with God, words or phrases that stick out to you this first round. Just words, they don't have to go together. They can be completely on opposite sides of your pages. They can be right next to each other. Wherever you feel like they should go, just write them down or draw them. So listen for the word of God. And this is the New Revised Standard Version, just FYI. O Lord, my heart is not lifted up. My eyes are not raised too high. I do not occupy myself with things too great and too marvelous for me. But I have calmed and quieted my soul. like a weaned child with its mother. My soul is like the weaned child that is with me. O Israel, hope in the Lord from this time and forevermore. So I hope you wrote down or drew some things that were symbolic for this. And the next step of Lectio Divina is to reflect on this passage and think about what it means in your own life. So think about what words and phrases continue to stick out to you. If I read it again and they do it, maybe underline or box them in, highlight them. But also, what emotions are you feeling? What does this bring up for you? And write that down too. Let yourself think about whatever personally gets brought up. Maybe it's a memory, maybe it's just one phrase, but write them down. And I'm going to go back and forth between the NRSV and the Message version. I like to use the Message to just hear a different interpretation, maybe not for scriptural value, but it still leads to such goodness. So listen again for a different version. God, I'm not trying to rule the roost. I don't want to be king of the mountain. I haven't meddled where I have no business or fantasized of grandiose plans. I've kept my feet on the ground. I've cultivated a quiet heart, like a baby content in its mother's arms. My soul is a baby content. Wait, Israel, for God. Wait with hope. Hope now. Hope always. So the next step is opening your heart to God. So take a moment for prayer. Think of it as starting a conversation with God and what you're feeling and hearing through these scriptures. What is God talking about? What are you wanting to hear and what are you actually thinking? Let yourself write that on your page too. Don't limit yourself being in the confines of what we think we should believe or hear, but what actually are you hearing and feeling? Oh Lord, my heart is not lifted up. My eyes are not raised too high. I do not occupy myself with things too great and too marvelous for me. But I have calmed and quieted my soul. Like a weaned child with its mother, my soul is like the weaned child that is with me. O Israel, hope in the Lord from this time and forevermore. And the last one is just listening to God. You don't have to write anymore if you don't want to, or you can write what you're feeling into a prayer. But free yourself from having to think or even feel, and just listen through these words. I'm going to read through both versions one last time for what God is saying or giving, or what it makes you think of. So listen one last time. Oh Lord, my heart is not lifted up. My eyes are not raised too high. I do not occupy myself with things too great and too marvelous for me. But I have calmed and quieted my soul. Like a weaned child with its mother, my soul is like the weaned child that is with me. O Israel, hope in the Lord from this time on and forevermore. God, I'm not trying to rule the roost. I don't want to be king of the mountain. I haven't meddled where I have no business or fantasized grandiose plans. I've kept my feet on the ground. I've cultivated a quiet heart. Like a baby content in its mother's arms, my soul is a baby content. Wait, Israel, for God. Wait with hope. Hope now. Hope always. So, Lectio Divina, meditation, silence building, journaling, all of these things are activities, right, that we can use to create or do during Sabbath space. But how do we create it really? It's setting intentional boundaries with yourself and with others. It's creating a physical space that you can go to, whether that's in your living room or on your deck or in your neighborhood walking. Maybe it's in your car on your way home before you pick up your kids. It's making sure that when you intentionally get to a certain time of day or a certain minute of the day that you're connecting intentionally with yourself, inner thoughts, and with God. Because Sabbath, again, is holy work. It's resting from the labor that we constantly are doing. Whether you're working at a job or in school, whether you're involved in a ton of activities or organizations, whether you're advocating or an activist and protesting, whether you're working on policy and reform, whether you're being a parent or a grandparent or a guardian, we labor a lot. And Sabbath is a type of labor, right? It's making sure you're creating that space, but it's a labor that is holy rest. It's giving yourself the space and the time necessary to feed your spirit in a way that nothing else can do. Not even walking into church or watching church online or going to a Bible study. It's time with yourself and with God. So these were just a few examples today I wanted to give you. There are tons of ways to create Sabbath. Exercise sometimes can be Sabbath, right? Going for a walk, just sitting for a while, taking a nap. There is a whole thing called the nap ministry, taking a reprieve from your labor, right? Being able to just listen to music that you love, and it doesn't have to be Christian music, right? It doesn't have to be religious. It can be a song that just, for some reason, triggers peace in you. And it could be a like super popular pop song or a 1920s orchestra. It could be anything. Creating Sabbath is personal. It's deeply intimate. And so I can give you all of the advice or examples in the world, but truly it's up to you. But first, you have to give yourself the space, intentionally setting focus and boundaries. So I want to leave the last 10 minutes for any questions or comments or anything for y'all. But yeah, does anyone have any questions for me or comments for the group or anything like that? You can either type them into the chat or unmute yourself, because I've been talking the whole time and I'd be happy to hear other people's voices. while y'all are thinking or deciding if you want to ask anything, I'm going to read the centering moment one more time. Not making y'all go through the whole breathing and relaxing your body, but I'm going to read it. What is Sabbath for us? How can we let go of all the work that needs to be done? We are used as vessels for labor, physical, emotional, spiritual, constantly. And rest is recycled again and again to the bottom of the list of priorities. Sometimes we feel as though our world is a constant stream of everything we must do and not a life full of the things that we love to do. To find rest is something that is reserved for specific times and places. Only on off days from work, only in the locations we deem as vacation, or with the mindset that we can finally stop laboring. But still we labor. Still we continue focusing on the forward of everything that needs to be done, and let the present moments flee away to another box under lock and key as we await the day that we are given permission to access it. Well, today is that day that we no longer ask for permission. Today is the time that we learn that our labor has to have limits, and our bodies and minds are not only capital for others to benefit from. We are taking the space necessary for care, taking the moments needed for rest from all the intensive labor of our very being. No longer will we just wish for the ability to rest, but we will create it within ourselves and our environments. For finding rest is holy work, and we must remember the divine creator rested too. Ooh, yes, Jerry. Non-lyrical music is easier to like center and meditate on, just so y'all know, because sometimes your mind can get trapped with words, which is kind of the point opposite of meditation. But I hope you all have a great day and week and month and year, and until I can see you all again in different ways. But find rest this week. Craft out whatever amount of time you have. I hope it's more than less, but work towards it. Because rest is holy work. And Sabbath is something that even God did and we're commanded to do. So continue finding rest in new ways. Thank y'all. And I'll stay on for a few minutes in case anyone has a question that they didn't want to ask, but bye. Thank y'all.